Happy Wednesday, friends. This is Neil Adler with another episode of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. Happy Hump Day. Did you all make it up last night to watch the whole Syracuse game? I ain't gonna lie, I was yawning a lot towards the end, but that's because of mold. So, all you spring chickens, young chickens out there, I'm sure you were totally fine all the way until the end. And so, by the way, this is Syracuse Central. We talk about Syracuse basketball, football, and recruiting. If you are so inclined, please hit that subscribe button and drop me comments about what you like and you don't like on the show. Um, yeah, so Syracuse men's basketball gets to 4-0. Um, that wasn't super awesome, though. Hey, listen, they played Monmouth. Monmouth fought tough. King Rice had his team ready to go. The Hawks, it was a tight game at halftime. Syracuse got it up to, I think, 14 points in the second half and ended up winning 78-73. And I guess, in some regards, a win's a win. And on the one hand, I would say winning this game by five and a huge reason why you only won by five. And let me make sure I get this right here. Yeah, 19 of 33 from the free throw line. So that's bad. On the flip side, they had won their first three games convincingly, albeit the most recent one against Drexel in Philadelphia this past Saturday. They were only up 5 points in that game at the half, but then they blew them out, the Dragons out in the second half. So I think in some regards, and they talked about it on the ACC network telecast on Tuesday night, the fact that Syracuse, won this game and it was close, and they were playing obviously a mid-major team that, it was just scrappy. It was a scrappy team, and for Syracuse, they could have folded, especially the way they were missing free throws. Um, I don't want to single any one guy out because of all of them, but they missed a bunch of free throws down the stretch, and Monmouth had a chance to tie it. I think it was 76-73 in Zephyr, and I'm not picking on him because everyone missed free throws, but he missed two. And then so Monmouth went down and had a chance to tie it. They didn't. They didn't hit the three. It was a tough shot, not a great look. And then Donnie goes down and hits two free throws to make it 78-73. So, you know, maybe that's like a good thing that they didn't blow this team out, so to speak. But they're not going to beat good teams shooting 19 of 33 from the free throw line. They're, and we're talking about Syracuse here. Syracuse, and they've had some issues with rebounding in other games, and in this game they were actually down big. I don't remember exactly in the first half on the glass. They ended up having a 36-35 edge, and Syracuse shot well from the field, and they shot pretty well from three, but you cannot beat some of the teams coming up shooting 19 of 33. I'm sorry. It's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And let me just go through the list here. Donnie Freeman was 12 of 14. That's solid. But Nate George, 2 of 4. J.J. Starling in his return, 2 of 5. Wim Call III, 1 of 2. Kyan Anthony, 2 of 5. Zephyr, 0 of 2. Soiree, 0 for 1. I mean, I love my boys, but that's ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, the game, just looking through it in a lot of categories, again, Syracuse shot 50% from the field. They shot just over 41% from three. Um, Rebounding was close. They both committed 12 turnovers. Syracuse had a few more fast break points, a few more blocks, a few more bench points. Monmouth had a few more points off turnovers. Syracuse had a big lead in paint points. Um, yeah, I mean, it was, a lot of the categories are relatively close, which kind of like concerns me as well. But Syracuse was 19 of 33 from the free throw line, and if they made and what was Monmouth? I think they were 20 of 25. Yeah, 80%. So if Syracuse shot just a little bit better, maybe this is a 10 point. And they were winning by double digits, like I said, up to 14. And like I said, Monmouth's a scrappy team. They were hanging tough at Seton Hall late last week. I think they ended up losing by 12, but they were So, okay, a win is a win. Um, but man, that definitely, I was super encouraged by the first couple of games. Definitely, they're 4-0, but I was not super encouraged by this game at all. But what do you think? Drop me your thoughts. So JJ Starling did return. He he had only played 3 minutes in the season opener against Binghamton. Didn't play against Delaware State. Didn't play against Drexel. Um, ahead of the game, spokesperson for the team said that he'd be available. So, and then he was in the starting rotation, and he was pretty good. He had 26 minutes, 4 of 6 from the field. He hit a three, 2 of 5 from the line, not great. 11 points. He only had 1 board and 1 assist. He had a block, 2 personal fouls. It's interesting. I do put out like updates on Inside the Loud House, and um, some people are saying, "Oh, he shouldn't start. He's not a good shooter," and all this. Kyans does earn the right to start. I don't know. Has he really earned the right to start? He's played 3 games. Kyan now 4, and he was okay last night. He wasn't great. He had 7 points, 2 of 9 from the field, a couple boards, a couple turnovers, a -2. He was -2 in terms of his when he was on the court. But he was good the first 3 games. But I don't think he's earned the right to start over JJ Starling. And Starling has a weird shooting motion, especially on free throws. But if he shoots like he did from 4 of 6 from the field and can make threes somewhat reliable, consistently, I think JJ's got to start. But again, I don't really care who's starting. It's who's playing the most minutes in crunch time. And how many minutes did JJ play? He played 26. Kyan played 21. Anyway, it was just good to see JJ back on the court. Hopefully his lower leg injury, the hamstring, assumably, hopefully that's feeling fine. But as I've said on Syracuse Central and written about on Loud House, this team isn't going to be reaching its maximum whatever potential without JJ playing. I'm sorry, I know he's not a great shooter, and he didn't shoot well last year, but he made his impact felt. And what was his plus minus? Or his efficient? He was 9. Okay, yeah. Kyan and Zephyr were -2. Kings, Kyle 17 and 15 respectively. Nate George 23. Donnie 17. Anyway, so considering he only played 3 minutes this season, I feel like JJ, that was a pretty solid game. But let me know what you think. But speaking of the Nates, Nate George, Nate Kings, they played well. I thought, by and large, Nate Kings had not shot the ball well at all this season from deep, and he came obviously to the hill with a moniker as being a 3-point specialist. 44+% from deep. Oregon State last year. So on Tuesday night, 34 minutes for Nate King, 6 of 12 from the field, 3-7 from deep, 15 points, 4 boards, 2 assists, a block, and a steal. Nate George, 33 minutes, 4 of 7 from the field, 2 of 3 from 3, 12 points, 6 boards, 9 assists, just 1 turnover, 2 steals. And, this is the second game in a row. Nate George struggled against Delaware State, but he was really good against Drexel, and he was really good in the win over Monmouth. And Nate King's, the Drexel game, he didn't. Well, none of the games prior he had been shooting well from long range, but he had 7 points and 9 boards against Drexel, and he hit some threes obviously against Monmouth. But what I think he can rebound and be a solid defender. I'm not saying he's going to be. I think Bryce Zephyr is still the best defender, on ball defender they probably have. But what I liked about Nate King's against Monmouth is that he made some threes, but he wasn't just settling for threes or for jumpers. He attacked the basket, and I think that's a good thing. And much like Syracuse is only going to go as far as JJ Starling can help take them along with Donnie Freeman. But Nate George looks like he's going to be a steady presence at point guard. But, you know, Nate King's, him contributing 10, 12, 15 points in any particular game or getting the boards, like that's helpful, especially when on a night where Kyan was a little off. Kyan had 7 points, but he was 2 and 9 for the field. And Donnie struggled from the field too. He was 3 or 10, and I feel like he struggled last game too, but he was 12 of 14 from the free throw line. So he had 18 points to lead the team, 7 boards, 3 assists, 4 turnovers, not great, a block, a steal. Just looking through the stats here to see. Sadiq White fouled out. The last foul call against him was total BS. But he, in 11 minutes, had 8 points, 2 boards, 4 or 5 from the field, but 5 fouls in 11 minutes. Yikes. William Kyle, he was solid, 7.7 rebounds, a couple of blocks, 3 of 3 from the field. If William Kyle can get you 6 to 8 points and 8 to 12 rebounds and a couple blocks and stuff, and that's great. So again, it wasn't like this great, amazing victory, but they gutted it out against a scrappy team, and it was good to see J.J. Starling return, and it was good to see Nate Kings have like his coming out party, so to speak. Even though he wasn't bad last game, Nate George solid. Donnie doing his thing from the line. No one else was. But anyway, so that just, we're going to wrap up here. It's like, I don't know, like prior to the Monmouth game, I was like, all right, let's bring on Houston, bring on Kansas. So as many of you know, or if not everyone knows, that Syracuse is 4-0, and they have the rest of the week off in terms of games, and they head to Vegas for the Players Era Festival, the NIL-driven Players Era Festival. They'll play number 2 Houston on Monday night. They'll play number 24 Kansas on Tuesday, and then either Wednesday or Thursday they'll play a third opponent. And then when they get back in early December, they will play after Thanksgiving. Gobble gobble. They will play I think Tennessee's 20th in one poll, 17th in the other. In the ACC SEC Challenge at the Dome. So they got 4 tough games coming up. If they could get a couple wins and not get blown out, that would be ideal. But speaking of Kansas, they played in that Champions Classic. It's every year. It's Michigan State, Kentucky, and then Kansas Duke, and Kansas and Duke were playing, I believe, roughly around the same time on Tuesday night at Syracuse. So I didn't really watch it, but I know Duke ended up winning by like 10 or 12 points. Kansas has a couple losses now. They're still a good team, but their best player, or at least maybe he's not their best player, but he was one of the top recruits in the country in the 2025 class, Darren Pearson. And I think he had a Syracuse offer. I don't know how active Syracuse or how what the interest level was, and I think he was number 1 in the country in the 2025 class according to one of the recruiting services. But he's missed, I think, the last 2 games, including the game against Duke on Tuesday night. And so that's something, and I don't obviously want Syracuse I want them to play teams at full strength. But if Peterson's out, I'm not saying Syracuse is going to beat Kansas, but that certainly helps improve Syracuse's chances. But, again, not to like beat a dead horse here, so to speak, if Syracuse shoots 19 of 33 from the free throw line, they have no shot against these better teams. Because Monmouth, they're not a great team. They were picked to finish, I think, like 6th in the Colonial or the Coastal Athletic Association. And again, credit them. They were scrappy. They played pretty solid. But I'm focused on my team. I'm focused on Syracuse, and they did not. But again, maybe getting like a gutting out a win like this after 3 blowouts was like kind of to be expected. And again, JJ came back, and we'll see what happens with Tyler Betsy. He was not available after rolling his ankle against Drexel. But the Kings, Nate George, good. Freeman, scored. Free throw line. I don't know. I'm scared of Houston now. I don't know, but it's like if Syracuse had blown out Monmouth on Tuesday night, would I be sitting here right now saying, oh, they're going to take down Houston versus, oh, Syracuse beat Monmouth 78-73 and I'm terrified? I don't know. Stuff goes up and down, but Houston's going to be tough. They're a great defensive team. Syracuse is really going to have to hold their own on the glass. They're going to have to try and, win the turnover battle and win the points off turnovers and points on transition battle because although, like I said, they shot 41% from deep and 50% from the field, but it's going to be tough sledding trying to score on Houston in the interior. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to it. We'll certainly talk more about that later in the week and probably get into a little bit of football stuff because, football does have a game on Saturday at number 9 Notre Dame. But yeah, let me know what you thought of today's show and what you want to talk about, what you don't want to talk about. And like I said, if you feel so inclined, let your friends know. This is Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network, and I'm your host, Neil Adler. And definitely hit that subscribe button if you feel so inclined. But either way, I appreciate your support. And look, I always try and be optimistic and not be pessimistic or Debbie Downer, but Syracuse didn't look great, but they still won the game. And they're 4-0, and let's just take that and let's see if we can get a couple wins. That 3-game stretch in Vegas, and then the Tennessee game, if they can get a couple wins out of that, maybe go 2-2. I think they can beat Kansas. We don't know who the third team in the players' eras is, and Tennessee will be tough and Houston will be tough. So we'll see. We'll see. But Syracuse is 4-0, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. I will talk to you again on Thursday, friends. Thanks so much for your support, and take care.